What's up, Bloodsuckers? Hi, this is Carrie Quinn with the Officially Unofficial Geek podcast vlog, and I'm here to do a real quick review, involving this book right here, Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. Wow, okay, so Midnight Sun, Stephenie Meyer. This was a 2020 release, written by, like I said, Stephenie Meyer. Wow, how many times am I going to say that in the fucking video? Okay, anyways. This is a first-person narrative that was retelling of the 2005 book, Twilight. And the story is being retold through the perspective of Edward Cullen. In the middle, the little history of the book, in the middle of writing the rough draft of the novel initially in 2008, Stephenie Meyer actually, a good portion of her rough draft for this novel was leaked online. Really devastating event for anyone that's a writer or creative out there, to have something that, you've put a lot of work into, but is also not the finished copy, being out there and people looking at it, and it sucks, and it's a really sucky thing, and she put it down and stopped working at it for quite a while. She thought it, she talked about it in different interviews, how like every once in a while she thought about how she might be ready to start writing it again, and what had to happen before she was able to start writing it again. And then she didn't talk about it for a while. And all of a sudden then in early part of 2020, 2020, she talked about how it was going to release in August of 2020, and that's when it released. Some of the reviews that came out around this release were not stellar. Though I have to say that there are items that about the reviews that I did not agree with after reading the book. One reviewer called it a strict retelling of the plot without introduction of new lore made it boring. That's basically what they said, and to which I do have to disagree. I think that the retelling of the story through Edward's eyes, Edward's perspective, definitely peels another layer to the onion, the onion of that story, and it's a perspective that we previously would only have been able to, like, the true perspective, the perspective that is completely honest and true. It's something that we would have only been able to guess at, and that's not just Edward's viewpoint, but other people's viewpoints around Edward, or other people's viewpoints around Bella. But we'll get to more of that later. Now, I am a self-proclaimed feminist, and I did read the initial saga of Twilight, and in my growth in feminism and all that, and social justice, I continue to grow to have quite a bit of a different perspective of Twilight and what happens in the story. But I found them entertaining. I found the novels entertaining. I still think that they're entertaining. Though not especially well-written masterpieces. Anyone expecting Stephen King level of writing will be disappointed. Not only in those initial saga novels, but also in this book as well. But that's not me giving it a negative review. That's me saying there's different types of writing out there and different types of books that you can read, and this is just one of them. Midnight Sun is not an exception to this. It's an improvement on the previous. I believe it's an improvement on the previous lore that had already existed there for Twilight. So But it's not an exception to the idea of basically know what you have in front of you, and know that your expectations have to, not be too high with it. Um, me leading up to actually buying the book, I think it's important to talk about that, because I spent at least a week or two of frequent bookstore trips with my boyfriend, just kind of looking longingly at the book, and remembering the story of it getting leaked and everything like that, and how she had not done anything with it. And then I hadn't even heard that it was going to be released, and all of a sudden I'm seeing it in stores, and like, oh gosh, there it is. And it's a beautiful cover. It's instead of the apple, that cover that was on the Twilight cover, you have a pomegranate. And actually the imagery, just like how the apple imagery ended up in Twilight, through Bella's perspective, the pomegranate and the pomegranate seeds actually end up in the imagery, in Edward's perspective as well. So, it's cover art that actually ties into the story. It's really great. But anyway, um, I remember wondering what it was like to be in the mind of that bastard Edward. Wanted to know what he was really thinking. But I would always be stepping away from it, because I worried about what it would say about me and my feminism if I read this book, if I bought it, if I read it. And what if I enjoyed it? Well, okay, so the book started selling out everywhere. Like everywhere. Barnes & Noble couldn't keep it on the shelves in the beginning, and Target store was just the same as there. And so then my interest only grew with that. I was told by an associate at Barnes & Noble, right after they told me they didn't have any more copies, that they had actually gotten a copy and they had read it, and they had said that it was better than Twilight or any of the other saga books. The years of experience and taking a long time to write this had only probably helped Stephenie Meyer in her craft. So I talked to my boyfriend about this, my whole idea of what does it say about me if I get this book. And one of the things he was aware, he never read the books, but he was aware of how problematic they were, and how they were viewed as problematic. And the point that was made to me was that I could read a book knowing that the storyline as a whole is problematic, because it's problematic. And you can read and you can enjoy the storyline being what it is, and as long as you acknowledge the fact that what's happening in the story is not necessarily a good thing, you can still enjoy it as a story. And it was also brought up, vampires. It's vampires. Vampires as a whole are problematic characters in lore, in legend, and mythology. They're problematic. There's elements in the theme and subject matter just in vampires, just in general, okay, where it involves stalking, and emotionally manipulating a prey, which is things that, among other things, which is definitely things that Edward does to Bella. There's definitely emotional manipulation, and stalking as well. Yeah, there is the element of stalking in this book. Yeah, in the story as a whole. So was I going to just stop knowing this, stop reading all vampire books? Well, no. I fucking love vampire stuff. Vampire books, shows, everything, as long as it's well written or entertaining. If it's not well written, I fucking love that shit. So I was convinced. I went and I found the book. And I went and so I went and bought the book, and it's been sitting on my to be read pile ever since. And so now that I've finished it, I started reading it a few weeks ago. Been inching, not itching. Yeah, so it is winter and there's dry skin, but itching and inching through it. I definitely am ready to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the book, which there are both things I liked and both things I did not like. To go back to original point earlier, to say that this retelling didn't introduce anything new would be, in my opinion, be incorrect. This is a deep dive into not only Edward's thoughts and reactions to what is happening, but also into the larger vampire society in this book series as a whole, and also on a major level, a study of the dynamic of the Cullen family. You are privy to things that you were not privy to before in this retelling, and reactions and perspective and different things that, Bella wasn't in the room for everything. But who was in the room where Bella was not in the room was Edward. And not only did you have Edward's thoughts, but well, let me tell you something. Okay, the first person narrative idea is hard to write and keep it interesting, because you're only going to be dealing with the person that's the narrator and their thoughts and their reactions to things. But what makes this story unique, maybe not unique, but what makes this story different than a lot of their first person narratives is that your narrator, Edward Cullen, is a telepath as well. So not only do you have his thoughts, but you have the thoughts of the other vampires, and you have the thoughts of everyone around him and Bella, because he is a telepath and he can read everyone's thoughts. So I like that extra special glimpse into what everyone was thinking. And for some of the characters, it molded their role in the story in a whole different way. People were thinking the kind of stuff that at times it was like, that was the kind of stuff that you would only say if you've had too much wine at dinner. So stuff that they never expected, especially stuff said about Bella in people's heads, like stuff that Jessica would say about Bella and stuff that Mike would say about Bella in their heads, in their thoughts, that they would probably only say if they were drunk on too much wine at a party. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. See, I'm just looking at my notes here. I will say that since we did get this from Edward's perspective, we do get to see his thought process through it all, and I did appreciate kind of going back to the whole idea of things being problematic and the storyline being problematic for certain reasons. We do get to see the conflict on his end involving his awareness of his behavior. See, he's very aware that his behavior is appalling, and that he does have some conflict on his end, as to his behavior. He is quite aware that his behavior is obsessive, and he is aware that he's just like, he'll talk about, wow, how much of a creepy fucking stalker he is, and which doesn't make it right, but it does mean it is aware. The novel itself is self-aware of the dynamic that the novel created. Meyer has, in my view, a wonderful ability to show the reader instead of telling the reader. Show instead of tell. The retelling of the scene where Bella and Edward have to sit next to each other for the first time, and he's fighting the urge to kill her. And because he's a vampire, obviously, and like, can't mention that enough. He's a vampire and he's problematic and wants to kill her. He wants to kill her, but he also wants to love her. Okay, so it's retelling the scene through Edward's perspective, that he is sitting beside her and he is thinking about all the ways that he could kill her, but it's gonna, involve doing this, this, and this, and he's like thinking it out in his brain, how he could get away with this and how he could do this, and or how he would never get away with it. And spends basically the whole class hour, because they're in a biology class and they're sitting next to each other, and he spends that whole time sitting there going through his brain, like, how he would how he would kill her, how he would get away with it or not get away with it. But this descriptive imagery, especially in a scene like that, where talking about all the different, steps that he would take, and how he would do it and all that, it was very interesting. It was definitely you could see it. You could see all the different things that he was thinking about because of the way it was written. And that's really cool. And I do appreciate that. And that does happen throughout the book. There wasn't just this one moment of descriptive imagery and then she didn't do it throughout the rest of the book, but it was throughout the book. Some of the points on the negative side, I would say that, let's see, I'm looking at my notes. Okay. It definitely was a little drawn out. Like, okay, so on one end, the descriptive imagery and describing everything was really great. And then there were moments where it was drawn out, and where the descriptive stuff could have really been like, okay, well, come on, get on with it. Let's move on. I get it, kind of thing. And then there were majorly, like, overly dramatic moments. Just a few of them that it was just like, was that necessary? No, I don't think that was really necessary. You really just went for the overkill on that one. And it was too dramatic in some parts. And it was really like, it was, I had to sit there and chuckle at, like, a couple parts that were actually, I was chuckling at a couple parts that were actually funny. That is a good moment, where there were parts that were actually funny, and there's times that I was, tee-heeing, about it. But there were points where it was just overly dramatic, and I was like, this might be appealing to a teenage girl, but it's just too much for me. Yeah, too much for the 39-year-old sitting there reading a YA novel. But, oh well, whatever. It was one of those things where it was like, over dramatic. Was it really necessary? No, it really wasn't. Just tell the story and, use that wonderful descriptive, imagery ability, and use it to your advantage rather than your detriment. Really. Okay, so overall, I thought it was an entertaining read. And I appreciated, I really did appreciate the self-awareness of the part of the retelling of the story, like the self-awareness of the creepy and bad behavior. And I would recommend it to anyone who has read the original saga or has watched the movies. Um, I would recommend it to anyone that likes cheesy vampire novels that doesn't mind the fact that it is 658 pages of novel. Um, don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. That's what I would have to say about anyone that would want to read it. Um, you gotta hand it to perseverance, persisting. With Stephenie Meyer getting back on that horse and finishing the book that people that were fans of the saga really wanted, and I didn't even realize that I really wanted before reading it. And after reading it, I realized, yes, this is really something that, I think that not only did people that just love the story and still love the story, even, with the idea of it being kind of, problematic and that kind of thing, I think that that's part of the story that needed to be told. We needed to see his side of things and the things that we couldn't see before because we were seeing it through the eyes of Bella and through the experiences of Bella, and which doesn't, change the fact that doesn't change the importance of what we were seeing through Bella's eyes, but what it does is it changes the dynamic of what we were seeing and what was really going on in the whole saga. And so, like I said, recommend it to anyone that read the original saga. There's a lot of people. It was a bestseller, so anybody that likes vampire novels, that doesn't want to take it too seriously, you would like it. I think you would find it entertaining with the imagery and everything like that. So here's the book again. Stephenie Meyer, Midnight Sun. Here's the back as well. It shows all the other Twilight books there. So that's it for this review of Midnight Sun, Stephenie Meyer. This is the Unofficial Geek podcast vlog, doing the reviews, doing those things. And I have some other things that I'm going to be reviewing very soon, maybe even doing like tonight or tomorrow. And just this is my blog, basically my vlog for the accompanying podcast, that you can find us on Facebook, and then you can like us on Facebook, and that would direct you to whenever we do podcast episodes, and it will also direct you to when I do any more videos here. You can also subscribe here and hit that notification button and like the video here if you like what I had to say. And until next time, have fun, geek out, read, buy small, and have a great day. Bye.